Hello everyone, it is Thursday again. This week we are supposed to be talking about stereotypes, and since like a couple weeks ago we did the stereotypes of where we're from, I'm guessing this is supposed to be like trans stereotypes, which is what everyone else has done, so that's what I'm gonna go with. Now, stereotypes have to come from somewhere. When a stereotype starts, people have to think that for some reason. It has to start somehow, so sometimes there's some truth to them, and other times they just make absolutely no sense. But whether they're true at all or not, no matter what, stereotypes always tend to put people in boxes, which is what Emery and his lady friend were talking about on Tuesday. And no one, or at least most people, they don't like to be put in boxes. I'm not saying stereotypes shouldn't exist. Usually they're pretty harmless and they can be used for jokes and they're funny and fun sometimes. But if you're one of those people who actually fully believes in a stereotype that there's no other way to be, then one, you're living under a rock, and two, you're just a closed-minded person. So even though most trans men are small enough to fit in most boxes, don't try and put them in one. That brings us to our first stereotype: all trans men are short. When I walk down the street and I see someone who looks like they might even be a millimeter shorter than me, and when I say someone, I generally mean men, because I don't get that excited when women are shorter than me, but even then, sometimes I get excited because everyone is taller than me. But when I'm with friends and I see a guy that is shorter than me, they all know what I'm looking at. I look them up and down, and I'm not a very subtle person, so when I check someone, I'm very obvious about it. So there's a lot of short dudes that probably think I want their body. So yes, when I see a short person, I inform everyone around me that I am taller, because it doesn't happen often. Trans guy problems. See, there is a stereotype that every trans guy is short, but that's not true. There are so many trans guys I know that are the tallest people that I've ever met. I just want to sit on their shoulders and see how the world looks. Right now, because I can't extend my arms, I have to stand on my tippy toes to flip a light switch. My brother thinks it's hilarious. But at the same time, I know a lot of trans guys who are even shorter than me. I'm 5'3" on a good day, but I bet you can't tell because I'm always bending over, so you can't get a real sense of how tall I am. Also, I'm not standing next to anything that's tall, so you also wouldn't get a sense of how tall I am. This grandfather clock is taller than me. Clearly. I think the stereotypes are really, really different, and it's really funny to me, depending on whether you are part of the trans community or whether you are part of the cis community. Is that a community? Like Chase was saying, he was saying how a lot of cis people are really confused. They don't understand how a trans guy can be gay or like boys or whatever. But if you dive into the trans community, this is the biggest stereotype. You either like boys to begin with, you'll like boys eventually, or you'll like boys after you start T. That is the weirdest stereotype, but man, do a lot of trans guys like boys. And does it really have anything to do with being trans? I want to compare the ratios of cis men who are gay and trans men who are gay, or at least some level of gay. They're probably not all that much different, which makes perfect sense since we're all just guys. But apparently trans guys are some special breed of boy that isn't allowed to like other boys. Either that or they have to like boys. It depends which land of stereotypes you're coming from. Another stereotype is that all trans masculine people, and no, not just trans men, have either a YouTube or a Tumblr. And I'm sure a lot of you have both. Most of you probably don't have either because you're watching this, so you probably have some form of a YouTube account. Anyway, and yes, my hair keeps getting bigger, but don't worry, it's getting all cut off tonight. You're probably gonna yell at me for that. Most people seem to have some weird connection to my hair. I just like to touch it. Back to stereotypes, though. This is the one that gets me the most. This is the stereotype that is hardest for me not to, believe. Sometimes I meet a trans guy in real life. Yeah, not the internet, I know, crazy. And I say something about YouTube or Tumblr, which I barely use, so don't get all excited. And they're just oh, I don't do that. And I look at them are you a spy? And then it turns out, no, they're not spies. They're just regular trans people, just doing their thing in real life. You know, not caving themselves into their room with their computer or anything like that. There's a million, trillion, bajillion stereotypes for trans guys and queer people and trans women and everything. But I have said what I wanted to say in this video, so I'm gonna wrap it up. This Saturday night, I am taking a bus to Toronto and staying there for 10 days. So if any of you are from the area, or if any of you are going to Toronto Pride, which is where I'll be, or doing the Trans March or whatever, I'll be there. Message me, tell me, so we can hang out. I will be filming next week's video ahead of time, in the next couple of days before I go, because it's one that I've been looking forward to. As for the next 2 Sundays, if you watched Isaac's video, he said he won't be making videos for the rest of the month. He is doing something. So if you didn't even know we had subs, or if you don't know who our subs are, you're about to see them, because for the next 2 Sundays, you will see our subs. So, Eben and Riley, see you next Thursday.